Welcome to the Husk Guys Podcast. Oh, yeah!
What's up, everybody? It is December 19th. It is a Thursday night. It is volleyball night in Nebraska. I know they're kicking off right now, but this is the night we're doing it, and we're going to do it. We're going to live watch. We're going to talk about bowl season. We're doing it. We're doing it all. We're doing football. We're doing football. We're doing volleyball. We'll be providing updates during the live show, but we also have a very special guest here, and Brett, who's a writer and podcaster over at Boston College, Eagles Weekly and Eagles Daily. We will be talking BC football. We'll be talking about the Pinstripe Bowl. We'll be talking about the bowl preview. Lots of good stuff on the show tonight. But first, before we kick things off, a quick word from our sponsors, which, as you guys know, is us, Pipeline Jerky. You guys have been buying a ton of this. Pipeline-jerky.com. Brett, you're new to this, but we created pipeline-jerky.com for the offensive line in Nebraska. It's the name of the Nebraska offensive line from the 90s. And sorry, fellas, volleyball's on. Hot start. Every purchase goes directly a royalty directly to the Huskers offensive line via NIL. We need NIL badly. We need offensive line badly right now. So every purchase of our gift boxes for Christmas time, every purchase for the stocking stuff for pipeline-jerky.com goes back to the Huskers offensive line. We've had a really fun run here on the Christmas season over the merchandise side. We've got the Husker Dad Cave crate that we sold out of pretty much almost all of this, except for we got all the T-shirts. We sold hundreds of these gift boxes. Really appreciate everybody shopping, but we still got a few more left. We got a few of the tailgaters left. We got a few of the Husker Herbie golf packs yet. So if you're a last-minute shopper, go to huskguysstore.com. Check out the all cool merch we got there. If you're looking for a last-minute gift, we got you there. huskguysstore.com. And finally, Underdog Fantasy, using promo code HuskGuys. You guys get a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. Andrew and I have a ton of fun going through this. And maybe I don't know if the line is up for BC Nebraska yet, but we can run through some of the highs and lowers there. So if you download the Underdog Fantasy app, you get 50% deposit match up to $1,000. You're betting on the highs and lowers of everything from Dylan Raiola's stat line on passing yards and touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, all the different stats across the running backs, wide receivers.
Including you, Brett. Sign up. Okay.
Brett, you sign up too. Get yourself a 50% deposit match. With that, Brett, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight? Would love for you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's funny because I was thinking about when it was kind of brought to us to reach out to you guys and collaborate. And I was like, oh, they followed me last year. And I remember at the time last year, I'm like, it's a huge account. And it'd be great to collaborate someday. I don't see, how, we'll be able to do that. And here we are a year later, first match ever between us. So it's great.
Yeah, it's it's something we didn't see coming. So for those who listened to the last podcast, we got a lot of the good reaction to it. But for those who don't know, Andrew and I, who are born and raised diehard Nebraska football fans here in Omaha, Nebraska, we did attend Boston College. We are alumni of the school that we are now playing. We got the Eags, we got merch, we got all sorts of cool stuff, but we did go there. And so this has been an interesting game for us to try to figure out how to unpack because we are alums, but we are still diehard Nebraska fans and we're playing each other. It was something I hoped never would happen.
Ever.
And the odds,
emotionally processing everything.
The odds were so low for the last
I don't know how to,
Yeah, I would get asked all the time. People were like, "What if Nebraska plays Boston College in the national championship? Like that'd be the best thing of all time. That'd be amazing." But that's never gonna happen.
Yeah,
what are you talking about? Both teams,
not even like either side. That's gonna happen. Maybe
both
of them.
Yeah. So Brett, we appreciate you joining us. We truly wanted to take this time and kind of spend some time and think about all right. So for Nebraska fans who are coming to this game. They're trying to learn about BC, ACC team that they probably don't know a ton about, even going back to Big East time. Would love for you to give us a rundown on this season. What, I guess I would start here. What did you think when you got matched up with Nebraska? What do Boston College fans think? What do folks in Boston think about this upcoming bowl game?
I would say first and foremost, for the Nebraska component, I think it's super fun, and it's something that as BC fans, we're all very have been very intrigued by, just simply from the fact that, we've never played you guys before. You guys are such a staple of college football. Like, I think when you talk college football and tradition and everything that goes about it, like the Huskers is, always going to be something that comes to mind when you relate to that. So just being able to kind of be a part of that and, understanding that you guys haven't made a bowl game in a couple years, and now you guys are back. And
thank you for saying a couple. Thank you for saying a couple, not
would
the
we
actual
call
number.
would we call 8 a couple?
Couple.
I feel like
It's very politically correct.
the word couple is doing some heavy lifting.
I don't want to get
couple is dragging some
5
extra
minutes
couples.
into the show.
We are undefeated in the last 8 years in bowl games. Let's put it that way.
We haven't lost.
We are about the same. We're except defeated. I think BC is like 2-7 or something. We're not. We make bowl games. As you guys know, we don't win them though. It's not like the early 2000s when I think they had like 9 or 10 bowl victories in a row and led the country in bowl wins, which that era, the golden age of BC football. It's a whole nother thing. But I would say for this year, I think that the Pinstripe Bowl is definitely one of the better case scenarios that I think that we could have landed. Great landing spot. The Fenway Bowl, it was good last year, but that always worried me that BC was just going to perennially be put in the Fenway Bowl every single year for obvious reasons. And I was very nervous about that. So, to really be able to, get that 7th win and kind of, I guess, elevate out of the Fenway Bowl and get to the Pinstripe Bowl. My only hope is that next year we can play preferably in warm weather, but I would just love to not play in a baseball stadium for a bowl game. That's probably my biggest thing for going
the
forward.
last game that BC played in the Pinstripe Bowl. There's like a story about, was it Andre Williams or AJ Dillon? But anyway,
AJ Dillon,
their cleats could not break through the ground. It was just like frozen field. Yeah, so they had to wear just clunky AstroTurf shoes.
Some of them are just wearing basketball sneakers out there.
Yeah, these aren't like baseball fields in the South, Fenway Park in December is not being used for a reason.
Right. And the other thing too, you got to realize is with football fields or any other type of fields up here in the Northeast that are being used in temperatures like that, they're equipped for it. They probably have some sort of heat, devices underneath them to kind of keep them. The Yankees end in early November at best. We're not talking late December using that field. So it's completely equipped in order to do it. So I'm with you. But I did see today that it looks like it's going to be in at least the high 40s for the game. We'll see if that holds up. But, it's a lot better than the teens when it was, 2017 or whenever that game was.
So weather will be a factor, especially December 28th. At 11 a.m. kick, I think is what it is. So weather's going to be a big time factor in the bowl game. It's a factor. I always feel like it's a factor, probably advantage in favor of Boston College in the sense that it's a Northeast game and used to the weather. I mean, I think you're pretty consistently playing in pretty cold weather and they're used to practicing in it. Nebraska's pretty cold too. But what about, let's talk about BC as a season. The Eagles are 7-5. Up and down season. I mean, would love your kind of high level view on how that season went for BC and kind of what kind of momentum they're riding into the bowl game.
Yeah, I mean, it's the tale of two tapes, right? Like we had the Tommy Castellano stuff for the first. I mean, I would even put it into a category of 3 where, they really started out fairly well, 4-1.
Got that top 10 win against Florida State.
They sure did. That counts.
Top 10 win.
There's a graphic and everything for it, so that counts. We're not going to talk about the fact that Florida State won 2 games thereafter, but BC was able to crack the rankings for the first time since 2018. I think that was like a nice little moment for them, and they took Missouri not down to the wire, but they played them competitively in their house. So there was a lot of good momentum. And then you hit the UVA game. They're up 14-0 at halftime. They're looking like they're going to go 5-1. And that was looking like a big deal. And then the wheels fell off. And, that was kind of the start of the drop for Tommy. And, I think a lot of people kind of looked at the way that the offense was moving or not moving. And he just, sticking a square peg in a round hole. A lot of the things that he did very well was with his feet and making, throws on the move, and really a lot of intermediate throws. And he wasn't, a big over the top down the field type of quarterback. That just wasn't his game. And I think that's, you see with Grayson James, like that's the type of quarterback that Bill O'Brien and the staff want to use. And it really, you saw it in the Louisville game for their third straight loss when they were up 20-0 in the first half, and you never really felt safe. And you just knew that that was a BC game. That was the last 10 years typical BC game where all of a sudden, they're gonna blow it. And of course they did. And then once they get into Syracuse, and now you're really seeing Tommy struggle, and that's when they pulled the plug on it. And the rest is history. And I think Grayson James has, for me, well exceeded my expectations. I didn't have a lot of expectations for him. He's a transfer from FIU. He was benched down there last year, comes in here late in the transfer portal, kind of, processor, what have you. And I don't think that there was, a ton of hope that he was going to be able to really, not even right the ship, but continue. He had played in Western Kentucky earlier in the year, really struggled. So there wasn't a ton, but the way that he really has responded and played the last, 4 games or whatever it was, it has been, it has been a very nice,
the offense elevated, which was a completely unexpected turn of events when you go from this, you've got whispers of this, like after his first month of play, is he a Heisman dark horse? Is he gonna keep putting up numbers like this? And Tommy Castellanos was turning heads, and then just, man, the wheels fell off. And when they fell off, they just never got reinstalled. And it's amazing to me that he took over and the offense actually seemed to improve. Now, not to get into next year or anything, but Dylan Lonergan coming from Alabama next year was a huge storyline just now, because BC does not get transfers from Alabama, but Bill O'Brien has connections there. What's the vibe around, would Grayson James potentially transfer? Would he use this bowl game to elevate his stock and leave? Anything along those lines? Any whispers out there?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think, I don't know that there really is any sort of thought process behind that, other than, for me personally, I don't think that this kid is coming here to sit, especially when the other 2 choices were UNC and Georgia. So if the idea was to sit, you're probably going to be willing to sit at a Georgia, BC. Sure. That's just my guess. The competition, the quarterback competition for next year is going to be so compelling. It's going to make, selfishly, it's going to make for great kick-ass content next August. So I'm excited for that. And it is funny though, when you think about the fact that we get a transfer quarterback from Alabama, and we're sitting here talking about, okay, but Grayson James does have a shot. It's not just oh no, he's starting. Of course he's starting. It's like that's a very legitimate question and argument to have, is Grayson James or this kid. So
I'm putting this together in real time. That I don't know why I hadn't put it together till now. So Tommy Castellanos, for those listening who don't know who he is the BC starting quarterback for the first 8-9 games of the season, ever transferring from Central Florida up to Boston College. He just hit the transfer. So the modern day of college football drives me nuts. He gets benched. He transfers immediately. He hits the transfer portal. He doesn't even finish the season.
It was
playing this bowl game. He's gone. And he's transferred to Florida State, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So Florida State now has Nebraska's defensive coordinator, Tony White, as well as Terrence Knighton. Did he officially go there?
Yeah.
And then multiple Nebraska players. And so I don't know, it's not that that's a storyline by any stretch, but I'm like, wow. So now the Boston College and Nebraska players who should be playing in the Pinstripe Bowl are down in Tallahassee. Like, literally, like Tommy Castellanos was probably hanging out with Tony White right now in Tallahassee instead of playing in the Pinstripe Bowl because college football is so broken that like James Williams and Tommy Castellanos are hanging out. James Williams is our defensive end in Nebraska who just transferred to Florida State too. I mean, what are we doing? It's like he transferred 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and
isn't it terrible? Like it's mind-boggling with all that stuff and all the gray areas and the things that it's like the unregulated stuff that you don't think about till something occurs, and then you're like, oh my god. But there's so many things that need to be addressed.
Yeah, it's one guy that didn't transfer, Donovan Ezeraku. So on the defensive side of the ball, for the Husker fans unaware, he is leading the country in sacks.
First team All-American.
Kick and play.
Yeah, first team All-American, ACC Defensive Player of the Year. But he's a guy that did not transfer. He ended up, he stuck it out at BC through a coaching change. Actually, he might have even been I think he was front end of Halfley. Anyway.
I think so, yeah.
He went through a big coaching change. Only had a couple sacks last year. Still could have left. The raw talent was there, but stuck it out and went from like 2.5-ish sacks last year to 16.5 this year.
2 and it was in one game.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is the vibe there? Do you think that BC is going to have guys like him sitting out this game?
I mean, I sure hope not.
Yeah.
I don't know because, last year we had Christian Mahogany, who was a guard, by far our best offensive lineman. He sat out, ended up, going later in the NFL draft. I haven't heard anything in terms of players sitting out or any, who it would be. It doesn't seem like he's one that would. I'm sure that so we got Ezeraku was a Halfley recruit. But yeah, I don't know that he would. I've heard that he is the type of kid that would play, wants to play. I think he will play, which is obviously good for us, bad for y'all.
Yeah.
It's just it's like 2022 when we had a real down year and he had I think it was 7 sacks or something like that. And he was, a bright spot on a bad team. And then last year it's just so mind boggling. He had, I've spoke about this on our podcast. He had to have been hurt because you don't go from 2 sacks over the course of the entire season and just explode to 16.5 or whatever he has now. It's just it blows my mind, and it's such a great story to see him go from just the production he had last year and just explode this year. He was just named first team All-American for our first team All-American since Andre Williams in 2013. So it's a big deal for the program. It's a big deal for him. I truly hope he plays. I wouldn't hold it against him if he doesn't. I haven't really heard of any other players not playing, at least like big key contributors. There hasn't been anything yet, but I feel like you guys probably know this as well. I feel like that stuff kind of comes out, either the day of or the day before anyway. So we're going to kind of have to wait and see.
Yeah, I've heard there's been some rumors that he might sit. Just sitting down with the agent and everything right now, but that completely changes the game. We really don't have an offensive lineman that would be able to block him. And for the sake of Dylan Royala's brain, most Nebraska fans are going to want to hope that he takes the money from the NFL draft and doesn't risk it here. On the offensive side here too, what do Husker fans need to watch out for? Who's going to be making plays?
So Lewis Bond, who has had a weird season, he was probably our most productive receiver last year, and then obviously this year, it's kind of been a little bit up and down. A lot of it's just the quarterback play, right? But Lewis Bond is a guy who is always looking to move the sticks, is always over the middle, down the seams. He's just a very, very good player in terms of just getting open. Another guy I've talked about a lot, Reed Harris. Reed Harris, I think he got some sort of Moss award a couple weeks ago.
Good.
For his touchdown against Pitt. He's huge. He's like a 6'5" kid. I think he's like the only player wherever he's from. I want to say it might be like Wyoming or something, but he's like the only player to come out of, whatever, Montana and play for like a Power 4 or ACC school, excuse me. So that's kind of, and he too was a guy who was more of a second stringer or second teamer. So he has a lot of rapport with Grayson James. So when Grayson James became the starter, his numbers really had an uptick. He's had a career high in catches and targets as well as receiving yards in the last game, and he's a big playmaker for us. In terms of running the ball, we obviously have Kai Robichaud, who and I would just describe him as a bowling ball. He's just a real smash mouth runner. He's going to get you 4 to 5 yards every time. Might break one, but that's really his game, is just in between the tackles. He's a hard runner. And then Jordan McDonald, who has come on as of late, he's another transfer from Central Florida. He's fast as all lightning. Very, very fast, especially on the edges. So he's been kind of a dynamic type of guy who has been able to, really start to get some tread, especially over the last couple of weeks. And that's a thing too. It's like a lot of big playmakers, or I guess like a lot of production has come from, those three who, they really weren't utilized early in the season. I feel like BC has really kind of moved pieces, found where guys should go, what works for them. And, that's why they're, been able to, string together a couple wins to close the year and, look to end on a high note.
What's the overall sense on Bill O'Brien and the offense he's running, what he's done with the program, how he's sort of transformed the program over the last year? I mean, offensive side of the ball, and I think, defense too.
I think people are always going to give him a pass regardless of what happened this year. I think the way they started out this season, expectations were really, kind of raised. And then, when they kind of hit that middle of the season skid, it was like, same old, BC, same old story. We're just the perennial, 7-6 guys. And, it was just, I think there's a lot of apathy within the program in regards to, the mediocrity as well. But the way that they kind of rallied together and ended the season, they had the Syracuse, comeback win, and then they played SMU very tough, in SMU, and that was a very good game. It was a 1-score game up until, they got that late garbage time touchdown. And then to win the last, 2 games of the season, it's the first time they've closed out with 2 straight wins to end the season since 2017. It's their first winning November since 2013. So it's
Got
a lot in common, really.
It's what, and that's the thing, is like he was able to really right the ship and help them close out. To win 7 games, as you guys know, to win 7 regular season games,
we make it pretty hard
deal. And to have a chance at 8, talking about the Tom O'Brien era, an 8-win season was kind of a bad season, but the goalposts have changed, and to have the chance to win 8 games for the first time since 2009, it's a big deal, and I think for BC fans overall, it's just a step in the right direction, and I think that this is what we've been looking for years, because even with Hafley, it was like get to the 6 wins, and then you drop 2 stupid games, and it was just they just have not been able to have any sort of like elevation. And we're not talking about like a 10-win potential ACC championship. We're talking about 8 wins. We're talking about you losing 5 games in a season. That's it.
Yeah, that's what it's
15 years. 15 years.
The similarities of the program are very interesting. We were chatting about before the show started on how there was a period of time, when 15 years ago for Boston College, where that's when I was there, and part of actually when you guys were there, when Boston College went to 3 straight ACC championships, and Matt Ryan was there and was leading the crew and won 9 games every single year. And the issue became not being able, for Tom O'Brien, who's the coach at the time, not being able to win the big one. So he'd win 9 games, he'd win 10 games, and then we would lose, an excruciating game against Florida State or Clemson or Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech with Michael Vick and Marcus Vick and some of the best playmakers of all time at Virginia Tech would win in the ACC championship. And that became this isn't good enough. This isn't high enough for our standard, right? And very similar to how Nebraska had Bo Pelini, who would win 9 games every single year, 9 games, 10 games, get into the Big 12 championship, get into the Big 10 championship. And for both programs, rightfully so, you want to win. You want to win that big game. You want to win that get up to that upper echelon. And for both programs, right around the same time, 2010, 2011, 2012, both programs let go of Bo Pelini, and both have then just gone into dark abyss, which is crazy because then once you taste 3-9 or 4-8 or 5-7, you're desperate for 6. 6 is delicious. God. It is thank God the Pinstripe Bowl. People are going to the if you had talked about the Pinstripe Bowl 10 years ago in Nebraska, I'd be I'm not going to that bowl game. What a waste of time. 6-6. And now it's praise Jesus. We have gotten back to 6-6. And BC's, it's they're all they're following the same thing of just get us to 7, get us to 8, get us to 8 for the love of God, get us to 8. Unbelievable. That'd be the greatest coach of all time. It's that used to be the failure bar.
That's true.
It's funny too, and what would you guys do to win 9 games? I would be ecstatic. Back then, I was oh, damn,
unforgivable things.
Oh my God, insane.
Gross things. Yeah. You don't want to hear them on air.
Yeah, I mean,
it's crazy to think about, but that's that is now, and I think any program that is going through that then takes it for granted. You see what happens. It's you go chasing for the next thing, and you just have there's so much variability in college sports. You just never know if the next guy is going to be able to find that magic again. But man, if you after you taste a few 3-9s, it is.
Both programs also have the fan bases have some alternative programs to turn to when times are tough. BC's got hockey pretty reliably, and Nebraska right now is tied 23-23 in the semifinal. In the set 1, trying not to drop this one. We were just down 23-21. Chipping away, making a little bit of a comeback.
Okay.
Brett, we got men's hockey for BC. And we got women's volleyball out here in Nebraska. And my gosh, if they win this game, as John Tucker has said, they're just never losing again. That could have been in reference to our football team as well. Which we do have a statement that what if we just never lose again? And we say that most weeks of the year.
It's true though. What if, you don't know.
Have you considered?
What if both teams win and then we both never stop, never just start winning and never stop? Never know.
Brett, who do you, in your cursory level knowledge of Nebraska, because given, these programs have never played before, what is your thought on the program as a whole? And then what scares you about the game? Who's gonna beat BC?
I mean, I think that there's just a lot of respect for you guys, just in terms of your guys' history and who you are as a program within college football. Obviously you guys are a Big Ten team, I mean, you guys are a tough, hard-nosed, blue-collar school, like all the things you hear, and it's intriguing. It's fun. I mean, you start with the quarterback, I just can't have the Patrick Mahomes mimic. It's like that's
Is that all you know? Please tell me that's not all you.
No, it's not all I know, but like that's what worries me the most with you guys. For sure, and you guys talk about your offensive line and how you guys have struggled. I think that is going to be, that has to be where we kind of at least look to control the game in the trenches. If we want to be able to win, we got to be able to get after the quarterback, cause some turnovers, and stop your guys' running game. That's where it all starts and stops. But yeah, I mean, you guys have and I've seen it too from our side. When you have a good quarterback under center, it does make a world of difference.
The part that, I mean, this is where I truly don't know. I'm just blown away by this entire.
Nebraska just won, by the way.
Yes.
Husker Black shorts, baby.
Huskers.
The part that blows me away about all the transfer portal mayhem of all of this is like, it's so hard to even project these games. I mean, I'm looking at so Nebraska, Greg, probably not tracking this as close as we are, but Nebraska has 24 players in the portal. And
Jesus.
A lot. And
oh my God.
I mean, BC only has like
a quarter of the roster,
5 or 7, 5 to 6,
yeah,
7. There's like, so Nebraska had the biggest roster in college football. I think it was biggest or one of the biggest. Like we had 140 players. The new rosters, you got to go down to 105. And so they're proactively like kids are leaving the program, some are transferring. It's not like all of our best players, but it's a material number of players have already left the team. And it's probably, what would you say, under like 5, 6, 7 of them at pretty key positions? I mean, I would say like, James Williams being gone, Dowdell.
Both defensive ends are gone.
Both defensive ends, backup. I mean, Dowdell started most of the season as a running back. He's now not playing. And
12 rushing touchdowns.
I mean, Jamari Butler not playing is – so that's like – I mean, the focus at BC is one, All-American not playing. We have an entirely new team almost showing up at this game, which I think makes it extremely challenging to sort of project what will happen. So Dana Holgerson came in, 3 games remaining, and sort of like jump-started the offense on the Nebraska football side. So he's remaking the offense in real time. But now he's doing it with dramatically different players. And
he's trying to figure out He's trying to figure out who's left to play against BC first. Granted, the defense has been hit far harder. So like
we have no defensive coordinator.
No, we do. We have John Butler, and he's going to be. I mean, we've got John Butler, but he's like a new defensive coordinator as of a week ago, and he's working with about half of the key players.
I see. It's just crazy. It's like you can't even. It's the team that was there for Iowa is just like not even there. So it's that to me is, and that's not just Nebraska. There's 2,000 kids in the portal right now. 2,000. 2,000 players in the portal, and the Bulls haven't started yet. So you're across all of college football, you're gonna be turning on these games like, who is that? What is that? Like all the best quarterbacks have transferred already. So I don't know. That's more of like a rant than anything. I'm like, even as you say, like, oh man, what's Nebraska gonna look like? I don't know what they're gonna look like.
I think BC, I believe, when I was looking at, has been hit with 3 double transfers. Like 3 transferred into BC this last year, and then 3 of them transferred right back out. So they gave it 1 year. And that is that is just so killer for a program like BC, and even Nebraska was we have talented recruiting classes, but we can't keep it. And for someone like BC who's like trying to develop, just like doesn't have the money and resources, needs to be a little bit more of a development program.
Yeah,
the double transfer is killer because like they might snag some of your NIL money and then head out the door. You need 2 or 3 years out of them,
That's what kind of scares me too, is like you said, like BC is more on like the development side, and it worries me that it's like, we're gonna find these diamond in the rough 3-star recruits, develop them into his A Flowers, and then the Clemsons and the FSUs and the Miamis and all these schools are just going to like pick them, and then it turns out that, we're basically just kind of like a minor league program for the Blue Bloods. So that's what scares me.
It's been a minor league program of athletic directors, of Martin Jarmond and Matt Kraft and I mean, those guys just like coming for a couple of years and then bouncing 2 years later. But
big fan of both of them too. A big fan of Martin Jarmond, especially. He was.
What? How's Boston College rank on the NIL front in your eyes?
It's greatly improved. I think that they were from what I heard, that their collective was, far behind, not far behind, but they were behind last year. They brought in, a lot of key people from the BC community to, board of trustees, things like that. And they've really kind of built it up, and they've done some cool things, and they've really done their best, to not only remain competitive, but really to kind of like establish themselves, within the NIL world. So, that was definitely a worry for me when all this stuff that started happening was BC's philosophy going to adjust with the new college sports. And thankfully the answer is yes, that they really have, done their best to do that. Because with administration at BC, you can never be too sure. And I understand it's not like the collectives aren't directly associated with the school, but it coincides with it, two and a half. But BC is definitely is how is Nebraska's? Is Nebraska's fairly healthy?
Needs to be better.
I think what's crazy to me truly is how fast and aggressively the whole thing is changing. So we started Pipeline Jerky. We started this right as it broke. I just saw that the opportunity was unbelievable on the Nebraska side. That if there's millions of Nebraska fans, they're diehard fans. It's the only thing in the state. If you could just kind of pool all of that collective energy, dollars at a time, $10 at a time, I was like, this could be amazing. This is 2 years ago, right? It was like, this is amazing. And the jerky business took off, and it's done really well. But what has happened so aggressively this season in the last 6 months is this has become like a billionaire's playground. Right. It went from because I would argue, when we had this thing going, it's all the fans are getting behind the NIL. I would say we were first open door started in Omaha, started in Lincoln. There was so much positive momentum because Nebraska fans are educated. They were into it. They got it. They were supporting the players. But now I guess what seems to have happened so fast is now Larry Ellison is buying quarterbacks, and Phil Knight has given $20 million to Oregon, and Ohio State has a $25 million. So it sort of went from this would be
Jordan
cool.
at UNC is allegedly working.
Oh, really? He's behind Belichick. I mean,
I heard
that to me is
Portnoy basically bought the Michigan.
With Larry Ellison.
Bryce Underwood.
He with Larry Underwood's money though. So that to me is how fast it's changed. Is it went from whoever supports the players the most and gives them the most local deals, that will really help enhance the player. They'll go around the local shops, the local businesses will help support them, and the players can make money on their name, image, and likeness. Great. This has turned so quickly into, if you have a billionaire bankrolling the team and he gives you $20 to $25 million, you can buy an Ohio State roster, an Oregon roster, a Texas roster. And so that to me has changed it so quickly from the BCs, and Nebraska has a ton of people with money, but they don't have people. They haven't yet shown people with that kind of money that are willing. Warren Buffett's right down the street. It'd be great if he just honestly, started to pony up.
Someone needs to talk Warren Buffett into a rare investment opportunity. And
I mean, everybody in Nebraska is so they're so fiscally responsible with their money. That's what's frustrating, is everybody's very fiscally responsible, and they invest in stocks and bonds and things that make sense. And they don't invest in they don't invest in star wide receivers the way that Phil Knight does, right?
It's funny too, because I feel like with the BC alumni network, there's a lot of successful Boston College people out there too. I don't, it's
But I think that the irrationality of it is where I think that to me is what gets above the line. Is BC alums are successful because they're smart and they're intelligent, they're fiscally responsible, and they build good businesses, and they're in finance and they're private equity and they're investment bankers, right?
Yep.
And then when you come to them and you're like, hey, there's this punk 17-year-old that like has transferred 4 times.
He just wants money.
And he wants a Lamborghini. You're like, wait, what? Why?
Yeah.
Well, because he wants to come to Boston College to play. Like, what? Is he good? We are not sure.
Yeah, you have to have more than just money. You just have to have like that FU money. That's
you need that like Haslam, like Phil Knight,
whatever.
T-Boone Pickens,
it's just
like
50 million.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Because like, especially when you see these kids, you're like, wait, he wants a Lamborghini. Why does he need a Lamborghini?
And if we get him one, he'll catch touchdown passes.
Will he catch? Is he good? Are you sure he's good?
He might catch touchdown passes.
Right.
And it's like, what?
Why not though?
We're not sure. And also, it's not a contract. He actually could transfer in the middle of the season, just like Tommy Castellanos just did. Like he could just leave. We have no idea. We have no idea.
That Lambo down to Tallahassee.
That to me is like the harder sell for like the BC alums, and I think Nebraska alums do. Nebraska is doing well, to be clear, on the NIL front, but it leapfrogged us quick when like the latest thing. I think Nebraska is now like they're in the top 20, but these schools, 8 of them are in the playoff, have $20 million rosters. Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Georgia.
Freaking unbelievable.
It got there in a hurry.
Yeah, really even Indiana they somehow got $15 million on their roster too. So it's like that got there quick. But I did see somebody said that like this will all net out at like a $30 million cap, and then like you have the universities will start to pour in money, and like it'll start to stabilize in like 3 years. But it's gonna be a rough like 3 years. I just think it's like you don't really get to really develop kind of relationships with the players over time because they're all transferring every year. But
I also saw Brian Kelly is like donating like $4 million collective. So
he's buying his own players.
You're buying your own players.
Honestly, that's brilliant. Like, he's like the highest earner. He's the highest earner in the state of Louisiana by millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Other than the oil dudes down there.
Such a gray area, but like that's the NIL world we live in. Like you can do shit like that. It's unbelievable.
So going back to the Pinstripe Bowl. I guess let's take some final questions here, Dave.
Yeah.
Who wins and why? That one's for you, Brett.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't make me answer that.
Of course, I'm gonna say BC.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm gonna say BC, but I'm not. My only rationale is as a BC fan, we're freaking due for a Pinstripe Bowl win. We lost it in 2014 on a overtime extra point kick. We lost in 2017 because we were wearing Air Jordans and Air Maxes on Yankee Stadium turf. I do want this win. I do want to win a Pinstripe Bowl. Let me be very clear. I'm a huge Red Sox fan. I do not like the Yankees at all. So I would like to go in there and win one of them. But I think, the actuality of the situation, both teams are very, very, very evenly matched. And I think this is going to be a very good game, a very entertaining game. It's going to suck for both of you. Or maybe it's good either way, depending on how you look at it. But from the BC perspective, the way that they're going to win that game is they're going to have to effectively run the ball. And that's something that they have shown that they have been able to do. And to be able to offset that, with a balanced passing game and to allow, Grayson to be, the stereotypical thing here, the game manager, right? But if he can successfully do that, get the ball out quick. You guys said both of your DMs aren't playing, correct? Like both of them are out.
Oh, they're both at different schools.
Yeah, they're in Tallahassee.
Jamari Butler's at LSU. We got a linebacker, Stephon Thompson, down at Tallahassee, and we got a defensive end down in Tallahassee.
Starting tight end is at Texas A&M right now. It's great. Super fun.
As like a college football purist, I'm very happy that they're getting paid, and I think that it's long overdue that players are getting compensation. But just as like a purist, like I just friggin' hate that.
They got to move the portal. They got to move the portal to after. They got to move the portal. The portal has to start in February. It's got to start in February.
You have to. This is it's
after
terrible.
The whole season's over. I mean, let these kids like finish their year.
Even like the worst one. Sorry, not to digress. The Penn State kid that had to transfer, the backup quarterback. It's like he's skipping on the playoff because that's his only chance to get to transfer is to miss the playoff. So if what's his face goes down, Drew Aller goes down, they're just like screwed.
They're like, I guess we're just running the ball.
I'm looking at it right now. So ESPN matchup predictor, actually interesting, is at 50.2% in favor of BC. Like it was literally right down the line. And the spread opened as Nebraska -3. It's gone down to Nebraska -2. Ridiculously close. Vegas has no idea what to do with this thing. Over under at 45.5. What do you like? What do you like on the over under?
I kind of like the over.
I like over. I like over because we don't have a defensive coordinator.
Shout out to one of my best friends. He tells me all the time. I always take the over because he's like, the goal of football is to score points. I'm like, it's good enough logic for me.
That's a good point. It's way more fun that way. Way more fun that way, except when your defense is the one allowing those points. But and shout out to Eags here on Twitter, another BC faithful, also a college roommate of mine.
I was gonna say that looks familiar. Tommy boy,
great follow.
Yeah, so he's a great follow. Interesting story about Travis Hunter not taking NIL and actually funding NIL for 10 to 12 of his teammates this year. Travis made the endorsement money and then he basically funneled it down to other players. I mean, it would be incredible to see players start doing that, setting up their own mini NIL funds. I mean, good Lord, what are you doing with $1 million in college? I was going to Mary Ann's and Thursday night just to get a $2 beer, and I couldn't even afford $2 beer. So you know what we would do? We would play Hoop Fever for beers. I would take on all willing participants.
I can't even fathom having that kind of
just
money
to get a $2 beer. A Busch Light.
My baseline college checking account had between $500 and $600 max the entire duration of the semester, and to have that kind of cash incoming would just be astounding. Like you would think about the parties you could throw.
Oh, forget it.
Like you would throw you would just go buy the whole liquor store. You could buy whatever you wanted. All of it. Just bring it to my mod. It's good. Yeah, mod 4A. Thank you.
Another payment coming next week.
Man.
Win or lose.
All right, Andrew. It's late his time. Wrap this thing up. What else should we run this down with?
Yeah, no, I think thank you for joining us again, Brett.
Yeah.
For anybody interested, they've got a blog, Eagles Daily. They've got Eagles Weekly is their podcast. They talk kind of all things Boston College. So they're breaking down the Nebraska game from their perspective as well. So it's been a good listen and stuff for us. I mean, I'm looking forward to the game. I'm also just I don't know. It's a freezing cold noon game in a freaking baseball stadium. This is truly a game where anything could happen. Nebraska, the way I end up breaking this game down in my head, Nebraska is going to be relying on people they have not had to rely on quite yet this year.
Yes.
To really step up. BC has, if as a rocker comes and he plays, they have a distinct advantage right away on the defensive line. And then their offensive line versus our remade defensive line, it's advantage Eagles in the trenches. I think that Nebraska does have maybe some more playmakers, and then with almost a month of practice under Holgerson, that is my hope that Nebraska can put up some points. But it's gonna be a cold game in Yankee Stadium.
Sure is.
We haven't been reaching our offensive potential quite yet this year, other than one game against Wisconsin, really. So, gosh, I kind of want to take the under, and I feel not terrific about it. Yeah, I mean, it's just
because of the weather.
We freaking snowing, and it's gonna be.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's got a Bill. This has a Bill O'Brien name. This is a Bill O'Brien game it's got his name written all over it in the sense that he can just muck this thing up and just, control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. That's the offense and defense that Boston College runs is just like, hey, let's slow things down. Maybe break one every once in a while, but like that type of thing will frustrate the Holgorsen offense on the Nebraska side tremendously. But yeah, the weather, cold weather, and half the players transferring it's just, you have no idea. Like there could be a couple guys on the roster that like blow up that, have been waiting for it, but it'll be fun. I don't know. It's fun to like, this is fun.
The under, and I am taking Nebraska in the game.
This is crazy though. Like we've only been doing the podcast for a couple of years, but we've been doing Huskers for 14. We haven't talked about a bowl game in 8 years.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. It's great.
It's pretty fun. December, talking about a game. This is wild.
Football, baby.
December football. Brett, thanks for joining us, everybody. Check out Eagles Daily and Eagles Weekly. Check out all the BC stuff that he's got going on. We'll make sure to link to it in the show notes afterwards. Go to husguysstore.com. Get your latest Christmas gear, Christmas gift baskets, gift boxes, all sorts of good stuff. Make sure you check out pipeline-turkey.com and head to Underdog. Use promo code HuskGuys for 50% deposit match up to $1,000. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next week. Go Huskers.
Volleyball is up 14-8, baby.
In game 2?
Game 2.
Bam.
This thing is over.
Go volleyball, baby. Let's go watch this game. See you guys.